I thought I would talk a little bit about improvisation. And I just put up another video a few minutes ago where I am at the piano. I have the piano running through some processing pedals, primarily the Moog Moogerfooger, the ring mod pedal, which is a sound that I love, the sound of acoustic piano running through the ring mod and kind of exploring those different sonorities. In that video, I also have my make noise no coast as a separate voice. And I recorded myself kind of just trying out different ideas. And that's sort of what I mean in this context of improvisation. Not the kind of improvisation that you would expect to hear if you were at a club or at a gig with a band improvising on music. I'm using the term very loosely to mean the first approach at an idea. But I'm not really an improviser in a performance sense, but improvisation in that way is very important to me as a writer, because it is really where I come up with most of my ideas. Even if I'm writing something not for piano, there's always a point where I sit down and play the ideas at the piano. Most of the time, the ideas, whether it's a rhythmic gesture or a melodic form of some kind, come as a result of my fingers on a keyboard. Let's say it's 80% of the time. It's me sitting down. Something happens, and then I like that. I try to do it again, and I try to write it down so that I can remember what it is. I will take that and work it and rework it away from the piano, but at a certain point, I always go back to the piano and test it out with the physical, the haptics of the experience. Haptics is a word that I've heard used to mean the actual physical gestures involved in playing a piano. So the haptics of a guitar are different from the haptics of a piano. But they also use the word haptics in the Apple iPhone, right? The haptics, when it vibrates or when it does something that represents a physical version of the digital task that you've just taken. So that when I say haptics, that's what I mean. It means if you were to take the instrument away, what is the performer doing? And I think very haptically about musical ideas. So I may be out on a walk, or I was going to say out on a run, but I haven't been out on a run in half a decade. But I may be out walking, and an idea will come. I will remember the seed of that idea, and then get to a piano, often before I get to paper, and experience it physically on the instrument. So if I'm writing a piece of music, I often have a nice big piece of manuscript paper next to the piano, and I'll sit down and try things out, and something will just feel right. And then the craft, and what I've really worked on over the years, is the ability to take that improvised gesture and notate it in a way that I can recreate it, play it. But then I can also think about it and expand on it. I can ask that gesture questions and see, the initial idea felt good, but maybe it needs something else inserted. Maybe it needs to be longer with a different material. Maybe part of it needs to be extracted and worked on and become maybe an entirely separate section or a whole new piece. Just because it felt good coming out at the keys doesn't mean it's going to stay there. It means that it's an idea that I'm going to review with some kind of a dialogue. But now it's a real thing. It's not just a idea. It's become real. And the same is true for writing, whether it's an essay or a story, the act of writing it down is necessary for the idea to exist. My ideas don't tend to behave very well if they're just in my mind. They're not ideas, they're impulses. They become an idea when I've written them. And with a sentence or a phrase or a poem, putting it down on paper is coming up with the idea. Because until that point, it's just a epiphenomenon of my consciousness. It's just a thing. And I don't really know what it is until I've started to try to write it down. That act of writing it down is an incredibly pleasurable experience. It's why I keep writing, even though nobody likes what I write. Nobody listens to what I write. It's the other way around. Nobody listens to what I write. The few people who do, I don't know. But it's still, I do it. I do it a lot. At the piano, essays. These videos are just about all made up as I go along, which I'm sure comes as no surprise to those of you who have seen a couple of them. But I find that I have enormous faith in the disquisition, in the ideas that will come. Turning on the camera, turning on the mic. Today, I came up here and said, I want to talk about improvisation to go along with the video. But that was all I had. And then just as I sat down, I thought, yeah, improvisation is the first seed. It's where the seed first starts to germinate for an idea. So it's not so much that idea about it not being so much performance as it is origination. That became clear to me only as I started to talk, but it's absolutely true. And the pleasure of that experience is something I really want to get across here. Like when I do these videos, and I start to talk, and I talk for 10, 15 minutes, the experience of articulating an idea that I would not necessarily have been able to articulate before is eudaimonic in the Aristotelian sense. It is a virtuous happiness that I think is quite wonderful. So, as always, let me know if you think the same way about your creative process, whether that's music or videos or painting or really any act that gets us articulating aspects of ourself. Let me know. Let me know if you have any questions. And in the meantime, keep your wits about you.